Lemon Amiga present a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey there, welcome to another Arabian Amiga Playguide and review. In this week's episode, we're taking a look at Arabian Nights, designed and published by Chrysalis in 1993. In this story, we play as Sinbad Jr. and we are the gardener in the palace of beautiful Princess Leela, or Layla, however you pronounce that, and it is our job to prune the bushes. But one day, when the princess happens to be hanging off the balcony, it so happens that a huge great demon flies down and takes her away. After some disk loading, we set off in that direction. And of course we start from the deepest, darkest dungeon, and we have to wait there until we get into the game itself. As the game loads, we will be given a nice title picture, and we will also have to break off to choose which language that we want to play this game in from the 4 available. Let's just select the English language and move on to the title screen itself. Arabian Nights begins with thematic music reminding me of the theme of The Thief of Baghdad and the Arabian Nights movies of the 20s and 40s, and from here we can also check out the controls, and there are a limited range of keyboard controls available. Most actions can be controlled by the joystick. You can see we can also press space to go into the inventory, and we can press space to return from the inventory, but we won't really get to see much of that in this game. Also on the title screen we can also see the options menu, and from here we can also select a limited range of options, including changing the number of energy points that we have on that energy bar and changing the lives that we have on the lives counter. And we can also select the difficulty mode in trainer, then I don't think you can complete the game, and we can also make that game harder, and we can also change the detail to high as well. With those options, I find that 5 energy points and 5 lives does make this game much easier, so let's just press that fire button and let's check this game out. Start, we find the key to the door is handy in a chest inside our chamber, and we can simply use that to get out. And from there we find skull platforms revolving around, of course, mechanical mechanisms floating over acid. And so this isn't the usual Arabian Nights story, but you will find characters in there perhaps inspired by the Book of 1001 Nights. You can see if you stand too close to those, they will wipe our energy down, and it doesn't take too many of those to kill a life, so what you have to do is simply run into the enemies before they have time to react, and that gets rid of those. You can also see a light bulb above our heads, and simply holding down that fire gives some helpful hints as well. In this case we find a prisoner, and he screams out that he really needs to be let out of that place, and of course what we need to do is ignore him completely, break into that antechamber and collect all these bonuses. Ascending through the jail, we can also find other rooms that we can simply wander into, and in here we find a snake charmer who says for 65 jewels I will give you the apparatus that you need to get further in this game. You can see that we cannot see the jewels from the main screen, but if we press the space bar, that is highlighted and we can see that. So let's just collect a few more of those, and of course run directly into those enemies and try to wipe those guys out. And if those guys disappear on my rip, sometimes the rip hasn't actually ripped every single frame when those guys are flashing. That's why they may disappear during this playthrough. Let's press space and check out that inventory, which is huge, and we can also see the 60 crystals that we've collected so far. We can also have two hands in this game. We can have a key in one hand and our sword in the other, and you can see already at this point some great graphical effects with the fire, and it's very smooth and it's very fast. The character is very fast indeed, and he's also very playable. Just like Tony Tiger and virtually every other platformer that we've seen so far, we gain acute animation if we hang off a ledge, and it's those extra animations which help to flash out the platformers on the Amiga. Have a rigid snake apparently, and we have to use our rigid snake and insert that in the hole, and that will grind the machine down and set that prisoner free. Like many games, you don't have to press the spacebar and choose something from our inventory that is automatically selected, and that just makes this game so much easier and so much more fun. After that maneuver, we gain the lockpicks, which means that we can now break into every single place on this huge level, and you can see the speed that the character moves on this game is pretty nimble, and anybody who thought Amiga platformers were slow really has to think again. This thing really jets around the speed limit, and of course if you overtax that, then the inertia will throw us off those levels, but the inertia will also help us rebound around those platforms, and so that's a double-edged sword. And the swordplay in this game is pretty limited. Basically we have to swipe at the enemy, but that's not so bad. At least we get some nimble controls, and we get some very easy puzzles at this stage as well. With the health bar, it means that we don't have to suffer any instant deaths in this game, which is terrific. It means we can wade into fire and still survive, and hopefully we can pick up some more energy as we go along. Unfortunately, that health is being protected by yet another guard, and so we'll have to defeat that guy, but luckily we can find two more units here, and that saves our bacon. Just like Prince of Persia, you really cannot take those guys for granted, and sometimes they will defeat you if you really do that. But for the meantime, we have investigated that chest, and in there we have actually found a maze flask, which is a tool to unlock the maze later on, but as the maze is only 4 pots in size, it is actually possible to figure that out without it. Stage the player may be thinking that this game is actually easy and a joke, because these puzzles are actually very easy and an 8-year-old could work their way around this level absolutely no problem. But this game really is for all ages at this point, and the difficulty curve really does move up in a nice pattern, so it means that we can get far even with these amount of lives and this amount of energy, and we always have some kind of a fighting chance. And yes, I think that there is an easy way to get around this guy simply by jumping up on the ledge and timing our blows so that we get rid of him just as he turns around. But let's just pile into him anyway, because we can take care of him using the invulnerability that we have, whenever we collide with something. So basically, if we collide with anything, then we can simply pile straight into it and wipe it out. So sometimes it's best to sacrifice 1 unit of energy if it means an easy kill. And sometimes the energy is pretty plentiful, particularly at this stage, and yet again you'll have to have some kind of respect for those guards and not simply wander into a massive sword which will chop us in half. Arabian Nights is an OCS game. That means it will work on every Amiga, but that means the colour palette isn't optimised for full mode on the Amiga's colour range, and some optimises have been met. But you can see the brickwork on this particular level is great, and of course we'll need the key to exit this place, so let's just select the lockpicks, and that's this level absolutely over. Then, just in case anyone thought of pirating this particular disc, the programmers have entered some kind of a code protection system into this game, but of course now that we have cracked technology with the WHD load on our side, we can simply skip that and get straight onto the points awarding system, which is a level complete bonus, which is a great thing. It means that we can explore all the different secrets in the level. We only managed to get through 61% of that particular one, but we also get a gem bonus for any special items that we need to collect. Those change per level, and any items that we've collected simply get some bonuses as well. There are quite some levels available on the 2 discs of this game, and they will slowly load up, and that presents us with the forest. Of course, there is always a forest level in the platform game, and you can see giant flowers and some kind of parallax in the background. But what makes this forest particularly annoying is a number of parrots which will squawk down and deplete our energy if we aren't careful. You can also sometimes access hidden areas by finding those, holding down the fire and pulling down, but in this particular case I can't find anything. But let's continue sneaking through this level, and every time we hear one of the squawks of those birds, it's pretty unnerving because we know we might just get caned. Thought the game held the player's hand a little too much, well, this is perhaps the first unobvious puzzle in the entire game. This guy is pretty upset about something, and his tears, unfortunately, are pretty unobvious at this stage what they are meant to do. And so let's take advantage of this level and create an exploring scenario. You can see a plant there needs some water, and we'll have to water that a little later. And you can see some more opportunities to find some more hidden areas, and I definitely know that there are some hidden areas below here, but I doubt if we'll be finding too many of those on this particular playthrough. Section is also a brain teaser because we can't automatically work out how to get out of there, and if we jump on top of this box, clearly we cannot jump high enough. And the problem is that these lethal spikes below us are actually a trampoline, and we can use those to jet ourselves out onto the top platform all over again. So the player has to choose to die in order to not die, and use those to get out. Having just collected an extra life, that keeps us on the 5 lives, and I think there are maybe 2 or 3 lives stretched throughout this game, and I know that it's possible to get far on just a relative few. At the moment, we've just run into Bruce, who's maybe an Australian turtle, who agrees to burrow under the ground for us, and that's absolutely fantastic. It means we can cut through all this dirt. also help to save energy as well, because sometimes these things contain traps, and the traps on this level are the birds. We should jump up from here, then we'll gain a flock of those, and we'll gain another flock in these wells as well that we jump into, and you may notice that they force us back onto the place where we should have picked up the extra health. But let's negotiate that. Let's check out the second of these wells, and in here that we may find, yes, some more health. So you cannot say that this game is not generous and doesn't take it very easy on the player. And because we have so much health, it may be wise to even leave the last health lying around should we need that, and that's precisely what we are going to do on this playthrough. In the final well, we will find a main character on this second level, that's the granny, and she will knit us an important item. Yes, in order to get her to get us the magic carpet, we'll need to give her an extra item, and in this case, well, she gives us a thimble, and we'll need to use that to collect some water. The only water on this particular level is emitting from a number of eyeballs, and we'll have to collect all that in order to complete that quest. Of course, this guy cries all over the place, and it's not easy to collect all those things until you see the blue appearing in the icon at the very top, and that means that that thing is full. And of course that isn't a direct link to the granny. No, we have to use this on this plant and use this elevator to get the item that we need. These extra graphical touches, like the leaves and the sound of the leaves as it touches those, is really good, and I really like those extra touches in this game. And there we go, we found the spool of thread that we needed. So yet again, I love this action on offer, I love the speed, and I think these graphics are great as well, along with the tremendous atmosphere created with this music, which does change from level to level. Dropping off the vital item, we gain a cutscene, and it wasn't really usual to gain some kind of cutscenes in many platformers, but that just heralds a big explosion. Leaving our very well animated granny behind, there are definitely no way backs in this game, but luckily the game never puts us in a situation where we don't have the right item to progress, and so now that we have the flying carpet, all we need to do is to leave this level behind and negotiate the last few of these annoyances and get through to that end of level boss. Arabian Nights is spread over 5 levels, and here we are at the end of level 2. We find a huge end of level boss, and there is of course an easy way and a hard way to take down this boss, and there is actually a place where we can stand completely immune to all these attacks. But if the player doesn't know about those secret spots, then they'll just have to tackle the boss the hard way, and in this particular game you'll have to hit that boulder just as it's leaving the boss, and if you can hit that after 1 bounce, that's great, it means it will bounce back and hit it. But if you wait until after 1 bounce and maybe 2 bounces, then you won't be able to hit it, and that's a wasted opportunity. Like Turrican 2, occasionally the ceiling will collapse as well, and if we are standing under that rubble, that will also deplete some energy, and of course we can't collect extra energy while we are here, so we'll have to time these maneuvers so that we hit that thing just at the right spot, and if we get too close we'll get hit, and if we're standing too far away then we may actually miss our target, and we'll have to put up with more collapsing roofs. but we are actually depleting that boss slowly at the moment. It's him versus us, and we have 4 lives remaining, and if we are standing in a perfect spot, sometimes that works, and sometimes some of these techniques require some mastering. Had the original box of this game back in the day. It wasn't long before I found the Amiga power cheats on how to get through this particular boss. It was simply one line, and it simply said stand under the boss and hit the boulders as they emerge left and right. And that was a very easy tip, and it meant I could get through this section 10 times out of 10 having learned that. But after all these years I've actually forgotten that tip, and that means I'm having to fight my way blindly around this. But towards the end of this review I will actually show you that in action, just to show you how easy that would be. On the Amiga I am making a complete and total dog's dinner of this, and it won't be long before the boss gets tired and has a heart attack from sheer boredom, but we'll simply persevere and we'll see if we can't knock a rock into this guy's head. Eventually, having learned its pattern and maybe some luck over judgment, we get a few hits on target and that thing collapses in its hole, and that means that we get some more entertaining level complete music, and some bonuses are handed out as well. By holding down the fire button we can increase the rate at which those bonuses count up, and that's great because those really do tick down slowly. And so let's hold that fire button down and get through onto another section. If you remember, we have arrived at the airport and we have the flying carpet, so all we need to do now is to take to those skies. Carpet level is very tricky, and enemies will materialize from behind, so you'll have to move around that screen whilst avoiding all these objects, and they really do take a number of hits to wipe out, so sometimes it's unavoidable. So whilst you see me avoiding and trying to get through this level, we'll just go through a few of the coders and the designers of this game. It was designed originally by Darren Hebden and Simeon Pashley. Simeon Pashley actually coded this game, and he moved on to join Peter Harrop with the Man United series. After Man United and Man United Europe, Peter Harrop moved on to Man United Premier League Champions in 1994, and he moved on to Man U The Double in 1995 with the coding help of Simeon Pashley. Great graphics were drawn by Phil Hackney and Peter Hebden, and Phil Hackney also was the creator of Saber Team. He designed that and created the graphics for Saber Team in 1992, and Darren Hebden also went on to Magic Carpet for Bullfrog in 1994 with Phil Hackney, and he then moved on to Airport Tycoon with Peter Harrop in 2000, which appeared on the Windows platform. Great intro animation you saw was created by Les Newstead, and Les Newstead also created the Soccer Kid introduction that you might remember from that, and of course that was created for the Chrysalis company, and this was definitely a Chrysalis game. Lastly, the music and the sound effects were created by the man himself, Mr. Matt Furness, and of course we've covered Matt several times already, but he went on to games such as Fear Effect and Excite Bike 64. I think the music and the sound effects really create a great atmosphere, and the graphics are very cartoony and quite fun, and very good on this particular level with the clouds in the background and a very nice sky. and I think those guys did a great job of this game. This is an Amiga exclusive game. It appeared for the original Amiga 500 machines primarily, and later it came out for the CD32. I think the old Gremlin crew, i.e. Tech Software, i.e. Chrysalis, have done a great job, and they really did try to bring some polish to games, and Soccer Kid was a similarly polished game with a similarly great atmosphere and maybe some novelty in there as well. And let's not forget the original concept for Soccer Kid was designed by Matt Furniss. On the Amiga, we have found our way eventually to what seems an over-lengthy flying section, and from there we pile into a galleon, and then we take on a larger level, and we can find in here explosive bombs which will respawn, unfortunately. So if you exit that screen and enter it again, they will respawn, and that's pretty darned unnerving because you have to jump over those, and you'll have to avoid those in every given situation. The hold is suitably filled with things which will kill us, including cannons and a few sea creatures as well, and in this particular level we'll have to find and collect all these fish as the special items which are replacing the gems from the previous level. We'll also have to collect skulls and things like that on later levels, and so there is always some bonus items to collect, and that gives us some extra score. And it's great to see that greatly animated snake there, winding its way up just to kill us, and that's certainly a lot easier than games like Shadow of the Beast, where we did get rid of things on ropes and they did unfortunately still kill us. So this game is actually a joy to play through, and as long as we take our time with these two remaining lives and this weedy energy, then we can get through and investigate this spooky galleon. But yet again, one of the items is protected by a sub-boss, and he's actually the death of us. As you can see, the difficulty ramps up a clear notch on this level, and you simply cannot breeze through it. Aspects of this sort remind me of the New Zealand Story, and games that we've played already where we have to avoid these types of things, and this game is a typical platformer in that it doesn't really give us much new, but this is particularly new because yes, we can get rid of this snake, but how do you jump and kill it at the same time and actually manage to land on the safe rope in the first place? Well, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and mistimed adventures in this game will be punished by sending you all the way back to a checkpoint. In this case, the checkpoint is pretty ambiguous, and we hope that we are going in the right direction and taking a few leaps of faith and judging all these cauldrons leading us through a maze. Eventually we should find what we are looking for, which is a switch. Just in case you are afraid to tempt those lives, it actually gives us an extra life, and back in the day, if you could get this far, or up to at least the minecart level with full lives, then you could get through the game. But I've certainly not played this in ages, and I certainly cannot get through to the favourite level, the minecart level, on this playthrough. You can see lethal spikes everywhere, and if you take your time and investigate the very best place to leap off, and you obviously take your time and don't risk it with the inertia, then that's fine, you can get through the level. But at any stage, if you try and rush it like this, then unfortunately the game will retaliate and you'll be defeated. As you can see, we now have 0 lives remaining and 3 health points remaining, so we cannot hang around and we have to be careful at the same time. So we have eventually found that switch that we need, and as you can see, that will block off extra life or some energy hidden in there, and so we can no longer collect that, which means that we needed to know about that in the first place. But now we can investigate the rest of this boat. Hopefully we'll find another switch which reveals another door, and we'll need to get past that and to get through a cauldron in order to get through this maze. Seem to find a way across that particular section without getting hit by the respawning bomb, and you can see here that we've found now the switch which enables us to get to that end cauldron there, which takes us through to the third and the final section of this long level. And if we had have taken our time, maybe that would have been possible, but you can see all these different chambers means that we don't have to get through to each section in a straight line, and there is actually a shortcut all the way through to a crab that we find towards the third section, and the crab means that that guy will help us to get through to the end of the level. And there's a quick way to get through to that crab if you simply drop off a snake which appears after we get through that cauldron, but we won't get through to that section on this particular playthrough because we have no energy left. I'm simply going to attack what looks like an octopus on this level, and we're going to go out the brave and heroic way. We're on 46,000, almost 47,000 points, and when it's game over you'll lose your high score because there is no high score table, and what that will do is simply give you a game over sign, and that will take you back to the title screen. But let's flash forward and let's get straight to that Iron Claw long play to find out how we should have done that really first major boss. And all we have to do is stand underneath wherever that is and fire our sword into that, and that will fire back straight into that boss. And yes, we will also investigate that cauldron and this moving snake, which reminds me of Battletoads, and colliding with this thing means it will set off across that level. All I have to do is to stay near somewhere the head of that thing, and that will get us through, hopefully, onto the next section. And if we drop off this thing at a particular point, that will get us there a lot quicker, but I'm not going to do that because we're actually looking at the long play by Ironclaw. Arabian Nights is a 1 megabyte game, and I really do think that they've used that 1 megabyte to its best possible use with extra sound effects and things like that. But of course this level could have been fleshed out with even more sound effects. You can see right at the end we find a plug, and that heralds the very end, and that heralds the next level as well, which is a suitably defined underwater section, a bit like Turrican, and you can see some great graphics and great effects there, just like Turrican 3 that we saw. Although the underground sections in Turrican 3 were much better, we certainly get the same type of creatures, and we find some diving boots as well. But by far my very favourite level is the minecarts level, which we shall see a little later on, and I always manage to get up to that stage when I used to play this, but unfortunately not anymore. So whilst you see me moving through that long play, and you can see a number of bosses along the way, I will just mention the scores. Dator magazine gave Arabian Nights 79%, Amiga format gave this game 80%, the current Lemon score on the Lemon Amiga website is 81%, Amiga Action gave this 82%, Amiga Power gave Arabian Nights 83%, Amiga Force gave it 85%, Amiga Joker gave it 86%, CU Amiga gave this 86%, One gave it this 90%, and the highest score goes to Amiga Concept, who gave Arabian Nights 92%. And that gives this game the average score of 8.5 out of 10. game has got a lot going for it. It's got the speed, it's got the action, it's got the character and the sense of humour as well, and that sense of humour pays off a little more than Chuck Rock 2 that we saw, and gets back to a really nice formula on the Amiga. This feels certainly like an Amiga game and has the charm of Super Frog and games like that, and you can definitely see that this makes the most use of the Amiga's chipset to speed our way through that. And you can see these levels are again massive, and it will take the player some time to master these and get all the way through. But you can see the programmers have cheated and simply repeated a flying section close to the end, and that is again a bit of a cheat and a little bit boring. But when we do get to the final section, we'll find a very nice ice level, which is a very nice step up from many ice levels on many Amiga games. And you will always find an ice level somewhere on a platform game, which is pretty much standard, and this reminds me at the end of Robocod, where we had to defeat a huge snowman. This game we'll have to defeat a boss who takes some time to work out how to defeat, because he has a very large number of attack patterns. All of this vary, and of course you will find spikes emanating from the side as well. And well, this long play, the guy seems to use a cheat to get through this, but ordinarily you'll find this quite difficult. And you can see that there are 7 lives available in the game if you pick up all those lives, and so there are 2 lives to pick up in the game itself. Finally, right at the end, we will gain a very nice animation and a lovely scene there, but unfortunately yet again no high score table. In fact, all that we get is a list of the programmers who've worked on this particular title. So whilst we see those, I would just like to say thank you once again for viewing another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. This is a game I used to love and still love to this day. It's got everything that I like about an Amiga game, and it's very quick to get into, and it's quick to get some fun out of. So if you like platformers, do check this out, and I certainly check out the other games in this video review guide. Unfortunately, this is the penultimate review in this review guide section, and next week will be our final review, so I hope you can tune in for that. Thank you very much.